This week in comic books, man, I have a haul for you. Great covers, Night Terror stuff, a new Batman book that's not even released yet, but I got my hands on a preview of it. That, and also Rick and Morty's manga. What does that look like, and what's going on in there? Lots of good stuff. Oh, and Hulk. Don't even get me started on what happened in Hulk. But first, as always, I have to try to sell you some coffee. So check this out. Hey, what's going on, folks? This is your boy Pocan Joe to talk to you about Coffee Brand Coffee. We serve people that are tired of gimmicky advertising and branded companies that want to lecture you. At Coffee Brand Coffee, all we want to do is serve you freshly roasted coffee wherever you're at, whenever you want it. Consider Coffee Brand Coffee. Check us out, check our reviews out, and use promo code POCANJOE or the link down in the description to save yourself some money. Give me the opportunity to get you a delicious cup of coffee. Alright, I'm excited about this comic book week. It's been a few rough weeks, but we're going to jump right in this and we're going to go ahead and launch it off with something huge. I was able to get my hand on Batman, Gargoyle of Gotham. Yes, if you're not familiar with this, I'm telling you right up off the bat, I like this. However, I can't call it my favorite read because it's a preview and there's no words in it. But there is this really kind of cool art, and I'm not sure what you call this style of art. But let me find you an epic page real quick. I'm not going to spoil the story. I will say there is a new villain in it, though, that I kind of like. Because they like hammers, and I get it. But there's a quick preview of what the artwork's going to be like in it. Is it going to be black and white when it comes out? I don't know. But I'm super happy to get my hands on this, and we'll be sure to put it away. They're calling it preview, ashcan, call it whatever you want. But this is something cool here, and I kind of like it, and I can't wait for it to come out so I can actually read it, see what they're actually saying in there, if there's even going to be words. So that coming down the line. Another thing I picked up this week before we get into all the hauls and everything is I went ahead and picked up this Poison Ivy #1 Uncover foil variant. Kind of reminds me, remember the Titanic scene? Draw me like the pretty French girls. Yeah, that's what's going on here. And that's obviously Harley. But all this is just a bunch of covers of Harley Quinn over the years. Some of them kind of horror, some of them kind of sexy, some kind of old school, a little bit of everything going on it. I just bought it I cover bought, and I don't cover buy. But I had a few extra ducats, so I figured, why not? Let's go ahead and pick them up. So let's jump into the haul this week. First off, our main story for Night Terrors, right? Bam! Right? This has been good. I really like this. We're getting really into the supernatural detective element of it now that we brought Sandman back into life. And he's decided, instead of just going back and resting in peace, that he kind of wants to continue on with this. And we find out that he has a little bit of history with this Nightmare Stone thing. So again, another connected piece to make this kind of a bigger story. I think that's really great. I hope he kind of hangs around for a while. I think that would be kind of cool. But more importantly, we get our second appearance of these sleepless nights. Very horror-filled. This monsters that can come and get you. Spooky ooky stuff. But they can operate in the living world. Super cool. However, I do have a question. Is it because, Sandman is back now with his little gas guns and everything, and he can pew pew and put people to sleep with his gas guns. Everybody else that's human is asleep. The only reason why he's not falling asleep, I would assume, is because he's dead. He's not really alive. Like Deadman, who's occupying Batman's body right now, obviously he's not affected too. So we're going to kind of, how's that going to turn out? It's those little things that kind of stick in my head. That we really shouldn't be thinking about, but for some reason I do. Alright, moving on. Angel Breaker. I'm not particularly familiar with this character. I vaguely remember her kind of being her first appearance slightly. I believe it was during the Ghostmaker type stuff that kind of spun off from Batman. So I don't really understand what's going in here, but basically she blackmails somebody to help her out named Raptor. Again, another character I don't know very much. And they're going to go to Cobra. You remember Cobra from comics, not G.I. Joe, but the DC one. Apparently they have a little cult thing going on over there. And apparently there's some kind of dream stone in there as well. So again, all the branching ones have these little tidbits of things that are connecting to the major story. Which one's more relevant than the other, I don't know. I don't think this one is, however. But they obviously have been tagged with the whole sleep thing, and we also find out that Angel Breaker might actually be more connected to this story, and possibly this is the whole manifest destiny thing. She's been training for this her entire life, and she may have very well created it at the same time. And this does kind of fit into the whole Night Terror realm as well. What is she talking about, though? I'm not really sure. The issue didn't really explain that very well. Hopefully, issue 2 kind of solidifies that story. Next, Detective Comics. And now we're dealing with Jim Gordon. Jim Gordon falls asleep, and his nightmare is himself, right? Kind of a self-reflection type of thing. I think that's kind of interesting to some degree. But this character named Sorrow that's apparently just like living with him, right, is apparently very in touch with this whole scenario, nightmare world as well, that has been created now, as all these are kind of, again, tied together. Okay, and Jim Gordon's having to face the fact that at one point he was Batman, and why that is terrifying to him, I don't know, right? Like his whole having to deal with his son thing, you know, where it turned into a werewolf, or he was a serial killer, would seem like that was more horrific to somebody than them being the Batman at one point, which is just, again, just a snatch from an old storyline from back in the day. Next, Harley Quinn. This one takes a different turn, and of course it would, because Harley Quinn is insane. And again, attached to the Night Terror story, her whole deal in here is Samia tries to, or acts like he tries to affect her with all of her self-loathing and all the body image, or not body image, but personality image, right? How one sees themselves versus how they think they're perceived in the public. And she's like, you can cut all this mess. I'm insane. I know I'm insane because I'm super duper psychiatrist doctor. I got all this figured out. So he's like, okay, well, we're not really trying to scare you. What I want you to do is just play a game. Basically, it's a game she plays where basically she interacts with different versions of the Justice League. More importantly, just the Justice League. More especially, it's all the ones from the 52 run, or the ones that were mentioned in the 52 run, I should say. And then she finds out that the thing she's scared of most is being part of the Justice League. Again, I don't know if that's more of a, do I belong in this group, or I don't belong in this group, so I shouldn't be accepted by them. You know, that kind of internal fear that people would have, you know, joining an organization or being a part of something, right? Like, I'm not good enough. I could see that. I don't think they're going that deep, though. Next, Titans. So where Harley Quinn kind of jumped off and the whole Night Terror thing, again, our Titans are stuck in the nightmare world, and their whole deal is how their fears of how public perceives them versus their own perception of themselves. So in here, Cyborg just feels that he's just a robot, you know, just a machine, right? And that's his nightmare. Diana Troy, she feels that she is just a horrible thing, right? Like she has no agency to her. And of course, Beast Boy being a savage beast. The character that's kind of helping him realize all this is getting information from Raven, who's kind of outside of the nightmare that they're in, and this guide has to bring them to him. But they never identify who this guide is, this young lady that's kind of helping them through. I'm not up to date on all the Titan stuff, but I am very curious who this person is. So if you know, help a brother out, man. Let me know down in the comments. Is this, like, should I know this person? Is this a new character? Like, I have no idea. So help me out with that if you don't mind. Next, and last of the Night Terror stuff, we got Action Comics. So this kind of first story, right, we're dealing with Power Girl, and we've kind of changed the dynamics of Power Girl to some degree, where now she doesn't feel like a real person here. Technically, she's a clone. So does a clone have agency? Apparently, this is something that a clone would have to struggle with. That horrible run, say what you want, but the Clone Wars saga and Marvel kind of beat that one over the head. But now we're kind of doing it with Power Girl too. And it's just annoying. It's not an interesting story. You know, if you think, you interact than you are, right? And aren't we all technically like some version of a clone? Like we just got a bunch of junk DNA from two people, kind of like we're all technically clones. Granted, we weren't in a lab like her, but I kind of see it as the same concept. The second story in here is about our new super family, right? All the various super kids now, and their interactions with Cyborg, Superman. Titles get weirder, so it's a whole super shit show, right? But Cyborg Superman is attacking them in their nightmare. And this is great because the whole thing is just reminiscent of various 80s horror movies. You had the TV scene. We all know that movie, right? Still kind of creeps me out today. I'm not going to lie. You see some Freddy Krueger influence into it. You see a lot of different influences into it. And I thought that was really cool. I really did. It just screamed 80s horror to me. But again, they're just in a nightmare. They'll survive. Moving on to Marvel, we got Hulk, issue number 2. So again, we're piggybacking off the Green Door stuff. We're going to forget that Hulk was a spaceship through space. We're going back to Immortal Hulk. And then this one, we're going to call him the Fractured Sun. What's great about this is that we're kind of tying in a little bit of religion too, or at least the aspects of religion. So in this one, we have a zombie church. I don't want to call it a cult because it was very Appalachian by nature, but of course they also believe in the one down below, the miners. And the whole aspect of them being miners themselves, zombies, and Bruce Banner being dragged to them, and they find out that he's the Fractured Son. So again, that has a lot of religious undertones into it, like the prodigal son, or maybe even Cain, from Cain and Abel. So we kind of have this fracture. Oh, it's great. And then when they wanted to meet him, boy, they met him. Like that, it was just carnage and destruction all through this little evil church thing. And of course, his new little sidekick, who does not like to be called a sidekick, but we're going to call her a sidekick, had been waiting to see the monster released, and she did. And I think she may even end up with some different opinions about being excited about the Hulk and wanting to deal with Bruce Banner a little bit more. Moving on, Venom. This is a 1 in 25 cover. I'm super happy to get it. Again, not that I fall for FOMO, but I do impulse buy. So 1 in 25, this is Venom number 23, right? And of course we got Toxic. So what do we got here? So Venom's not Eddie Brock anymore, it's Dylan, his son. And in this one, Toxin, right, kind of sort of related to him. I don't want to spoil it. If you're a Venom fan, by all means tell everybody. I'm not going to do that, but kind of enlist them. Now there's a little bit of a conflict between the two. There's always a conflict between two heroes at first, and then they go and save some kids. But the truth is, I don't think we really needed Toxin in this story. It seems like a super simple problem for just Venom himself, Dylan Brock, to go and save himself, but we have to introduce a character. Now, per the solicitations that came out for this, what did the Black Widow symbiote look like? Nothing, because they didn't show that. They hinted towards it and gave it to you as a cliffhanger, but they didn't really show you anything. Alright, next. This is the week of covers. My wife collects Scotty Young covers, which means I have to buy Scotty Young covers, which means I have to read whatever that cover's from. So, Amazing Spider-Man number 30. Yeah, so what's the big deal on this? Doc Ock's got some new weird tentacle type of thing, so now Spider-Man has to get some tentacles too, and then they have a tentacle fight and just touch tips through the whole thing. That's about it. Alright, moving on into Independence. Berserker, Poetry of Madness. This really didn't have to be written. I don't mean that discouragingly. If you like this, definitely, again, it has that same kind of art that I was just talking about under the Gotham book, where it's just very crowded, very 70s super jailish type of artwork. Very graphic, very violent, but this is again dealing with his past, and instead of just giving him historical places or historical tribes or actual history to be a part of, what they're actually doing in this one is they're just going to, he was the main guard at Atlantis. Oh, Anyway, he's there. The king there, he knew since a child. Brain's being corrupted by the religious zealot that's there. And eventually opens a portal and lets Cthulhu in. Or Cthulhu? The thing from H.P. Lovecraft. Right? Gets him in there, and of course, Berserker kills everything. Everything. That thing is just blood and guts throughout the entire thing. It really kind of lacks on the story. I think they were just going for more shock and awe in it. And fair enough. Some people like that. Moving on. Alice in Neverland. I didn't realize that this was the sequel to the last Alice in Wonderland story, where she was a drug-fueled young lady put into an asylum, and kind of this was the whole thing of Alice in Wonderland was a hallucination to her. This is a continuance to that, so it's not that interesting. Like, nothing against the writers. I get it. Sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss, and this was definitely a miss for me, and probably the biggest find for me. Just surprised that I got to my comic book store in time to actually get this before somebody else did. Rick and Morty, the manga. We've heard this, and this is a true ash can, of course. Preview. This it's a Rick and Morty story. Like there's Jerry Kaiju's walking around is the best way to put it. They're tearing up the city. So Rick gets inside of a mech suit, like Gundam, and goes and fights all of his oversized dads. And of course, Morty does that. Rick is the guy at the desk, super science guy. And it kind of jumps around in time, just like a manga would, right? But it's a typical Rick and Morty story. So that's my haul this week, all just under 16 minutes. Let me say real quick, if you haven't, you can definitely check out my coffee down below. You can check out my merch store down below. Evil Lair project is almost done. It's almost done. I'll have that in the mail and video edited here hopefully very, very soon. And I just want to say thank you for stopping by. If you get the chance, please consider hitting the subscribe button, the notification bell, or the thumbs up. You know, it's a small click for you, but it means a lot to me. And thank you again for coming by. I'll see you all next week. Bye.